afternoon, everyone. My name is Teronda Ellis. I am the CEO of the JPNDC. We want to welcome you here on this amazing afternoon to celebrate this transformative, restorative, and frankly, a really good story for the city of Boston in terms of preservation of affordable housing where there is dignity and there is respect and there is a desire on the part of, I believe, everyone here who participated in this team effort to really move the agenda on affordable housing forward. I often start my morning with a quote from Maya Angelou. And so I just want to share that quote. And it is essentially that when you have an attitude of gratitude, you wake up every morning with a thank you. And although this isn't the morning, with this incredible assembly of phenomenal human beings, I think we can say another thank you for the afternoon, for the sun coming up, but also for what we're going to really just embrace here today. I want to start by saying thank you to the residents of this incredible housing portfolio. And I know there are a number of funders and lenders and others who won't be shy in saying to me, or at least sharing with all of us, I think, the same sentiment that I do, to say that it is the people first that we share thanks for. When we are working, as we often do in community, with community, we forget that community is the foundation, and we can sometimes get really caught up in our jobs. But the housing and the families, 201 families, walked with us on this journey of rehab and restoration. And that's not easy. And so we know that it was disruptive. It can't be anything other than if somebody's coming in your house you don't even know. And that's a big deal. And so I want to say thank you personally to all the residents of this incredible portfolio first. So that is my welcoming. Okay. All right. We have a number of distinguished guests here for honor the mayor. Hey. The first time I walked in her office, it was a powerful experience. You were incredible. You wanted to understand what was happening with the people. JPNDC showed up in Roxbury, and she said, "This is my neighborhood." And so you better do right. We tried, and I think we achieved that goal with gratitude for that holding us accountable. We appreciate that. Okay. So, 2016, we got a phone call at the JPNDC. There was about 201 units that were, many of them at risk of loss to the market. And JPNDC, as you know, primarily is a community-based organization that works in Jamaica Plain in terms of its housing portfolio, but many of you probably don't know that we, in terms of our economic prosperity work, our work to sustain and really bring forward the families who are looking to shift their economic mobility forward, that work actually takes place across the city of Boston in a very big way. So when we were in the middle of a strategic plan, and we got a call to be an active partner in one of these, all of these affordable housing deals are mind-numbingly painful in terms of the financing structures and the tax credits and the various lenders and sources of funding and all of that. But the point was there were going to be 150 units. Some of them we're going to maybe see a little bit of, maybe, I don't know, team, that were at risk of loss to the market. So imagine that amazing building in what we call Lower Roxbury, Mission Hill, Fort Hill, that kind of area was going to be lost to the market. And so it wasn't a question of whether, it was how, and how we do that with our partners, many of whom you're going to meet today. Maya Angelou always says, do the best you can until you know better. And then when you know better, do better. So the question wasn't if. We knew that there were going to be 20 buildings that we didn't have our hands on from inception that we had to take on. Now we know better. We know that anytime we're talking about properties that were not under our care, that we didn't know exactly what was going to happen behind the walls. But that the first order of business was stability and safety in those units. And so we had to set out and figure out how we were going to investigate the knowing better to do better. Thankfully, with an amazing team of funders, we closed on the properties and began work. And I'm looking at one individual in particular who said, I'm going to take on this project as a project manager, coming from Dorchester, and all I care about is what's going to happen with the people. So she looked at our rehab scope and said, now we know better. We're going to have to figure out how to find additional resources because this is not going to be good enough for what we find behind the walls. And we understood that, but she carried the mantle. And so we had to expand the construction scope. And we had to go back to our lenders. And we had to explain that at least one individual, you know, some of us were like willing to figure out, you know, sometimes you're finding ways to prioritize scope, but there was no getting around her. Her principles were, we're going to do everything that we can. We are not going to cherry pick the safety and the care and the consideration that goes into these units. So we increased the scope by $8 million. $8 million. And that, we have to say thank you again, because in the moment when we are going through occupied rehab with residents who have circumstances and families and school and play dates, you get project fatigue. But she didn't get fatigued. She did not get fatigued. And then we had a global pandemic, and that didn't matter either. The point was that the work was going to continue. So our extraordinary commitment, the extraordinary commitment by and on the part of the residents, all I can say is we have 201 safe, good-looking units and amazing families who can be sure that what's going on behind the walls and at the roof level and at the windows, I remember walking through and doing the window inspection, that they're safe. And now the work starts. Now the work starts of rebuilding with the JPNDC. Conversations will start on what's next. So that's what happened. I want to thank a number of you today publicly. I know we often talk about this often. I'm going to read what I said because I'm getting old and my eyes aren't so good. I want to introduce first, is she here? Our resident? Okay. Then I'm going to bring up the woman of the hour, Mayor Janey. Sheila, would you do the honors of introducing our mayor? Because I'm scared. She told me get it right. So come on up here, Sheila. Help me. All right. Your leadership is this woman's leadership is legendary in the city of Boston. I used to be really afraid of Sheila too, because she looks you right in the eye. And these, you know, when you work in a city with women and men who can cut to the chase, you appreciate that when you realize they're not bluffing, right? You get to the chase and you get the work done. So thank you. Come on up here and introduce our amazing mayor.
Thank you. Thanks, Teronda. Thank you. And thank you, Teronda. We're very happy that you're in the role that you're in. And I haven't been to, I missed the last housing event with JPNDC, so this is the first time I've been with you in a public event, and congratulations on your new job, kind of new. We're just thrilled that you're there. So I agree, preserving what we have in the city is so important. You know, we want to build, we want to build back better, we want to continue to build affordable housing, but if we don't hang on to what we have, the families will be harmed, and we won't have net new affordable homes. So I too want to thank the JPNDC, and I too want to thank the residents. This was tough. We heard from you along the way, but every single time there was an issue, we called the JPNDC, called the management company, and they were there to help. So it was well done. It was a complicated project, but it was well done. I have a role to introduce the mayor today, and I'm really happy to do that. When I was quickly drafting a few remarks on my way here, I started to think about Mayor Janey's commitment to affordable housing. And I started to say, okay, I know we've been working on a lot of things together, but let's tick off some of those things. And just in the last several months, let me tell you what this woman has been up to. So she got the new fiscal year 22 budget passed with a 21% increase for affordable housing and affordable housing programs. 21% increase. She, because we all love the AOP program, the acquisition program that helped do this project, she secured through negotiations with the City Council an extra $20 million for that program, tripling its size this year. So that's one of my favorites. We're all getting ARP money. We're very excited about that. That's the federal relief money that's coming. And Mayor Janey has said that she wants additional affordable housing created from that, especially affordable home ownership for our families. And finally, 3 or 4 months ago, I stood with her as we announced $50 million for rental relief to help people stay in their homes after the pandemic. And that's just been the last several months. So I want to, if everyone could give it up to our mayor, our housing mayor, Mayor Janey.
Teronda?
Good afternoon. You know, I am just thrilled and honored to be here with Teronda, with Sheila, with Crystal, with the residents of this community. As your mayor, someone who grew up right here in this neighborhood, just beyond these hills on Norfolk Street, between Highland and Lambert Avenue. You're right, get it right, because this is my neighborhood. And I couldn't be more thrilled to see the work that has come from this amazing partnership, collaboration, and really putting the residents of this community first. And so, first and foremost, I want to thank Teronda and the JPNDC team for all of your work. You have been incredible, and I couldn't be more thrilled. I think this is a wonderful day, and we should all give a big round of applause and celebrate the fact that we are here today to cut this ribbon. And then to Sheila Dillon, Chief of Housing, the incredible work that you have done for such a long period of time, and then to be able to work with you over the last 4 to 5 months to really prioritize people in the city of Boston, making sure that we have the housing that we need that meets the needs of the residents in our city, particularly around affordability. You and your entire team are so incredible, and I wish that anyone for the Office of Neighborhood Development would please raise your hand. I know I saw some staff earlier today. Carrie is here. Thank you so much. Your entire team is incredible. Just yesterday, we were celebrating not a ribbon cutting, but a passing of the keys in Chinatown, another community like Roxbury that has been hard hit when it comes to rising cost of housing. And to be able to take row houses in that community that were already on the private market, and to get them back through the land trust was a big victory there. And for here to be able to prevent these from even going on the market, really important. Crystal, all I could say was, I'm glad I don't have to follow Crystal. You are just so fierce, and I'm just so grateful for the work that you do every single day. And this takes a partnership. It takes all of us at the local level, at the community level, at the city level, and at the state. And so I am just so pleased to continue to be able to work with you in partnership, to be at yet another ribbon cutting, celebrating affordable housing in our community. This is a big priority for me because this is personal for me. I grew up here on Norfolk Street living with my dad, and when I lived with my mom, my parents were divorced, so I went back and forth. We often lived in subsidized housing in the city. And, you know, it wasn't always easy. I became a parent when I was very young. In my very first apartment, I was able to get with a Section 8 voucher. And then 21 years ago, I was able to buy a home in my neighborhood, and the only reason I was able to do that was because I went through a first-time home buyers program. I know what it's like to be priced out of your community. My great-grandparents in the South End had a brownstone, and our family was not able to hold on to that brownstone in the 1980s when the South End began to gentrify. We know that that is happening all across our city, particularly in neighborhoods like Chinatown and Roxbury. Here in Roxbury, we've seen the cost of housing go up by 70% in a 5-year period. And so prioritizing rental relief, prioritizing home ownership opportunities, making sure that we are doing more to invest in AOP and in our land trust is so important. Making sure that we're doing everything to prioritize the residents of this community so that they can stay in a neighborhood that they call home is so important. 201 units we were able to save and preserve with investments from the city and the state and lenders. So many folks who have made this possible. And so I think this is an important model for us to continue to replicate as we do all that we can to create the housing that we need in the city of Boston. We know that there was a housing crisis long before COVID-19, and that COVID has made this worse, which is why I was proud to stand with you, Sheila, and invest $50 million in rental relief for Boston residents in my very first week back in March. And we've been able to help 3,400 households thus far, and more help is on the way because we know there's more work to do in this space. And so today is a day of celebration, but it's also a day to recognize that this work is important because of the families who are right here, who have been part of the process. and the larger neighborhood here. These processes are not easy. People often bring a lot of concerns, a lot of issues, but we're able to work through that together as a community, as a neighborhood, and we'll continue to do that work together as we push forward with housing all across our city to meet the needs of residents in Boston, and doing that work in partnership with folks like JPNDC. So thank you so much for this project, for getting it right, for starting us off with gratitude and quotes from Maya Angelou. You know, this is a great day, and I'm so glad we got this one right. Let's continue to do this work together. Let's make sure we have the housing that Boston residents need so everyone can continue to call Boston home. Thank you so much.
Phenomenal women, just calling it what it is. My next phenomenal woman, just keeping the Maya theme, poetry, not anything else. Crystal Cornegay. But for, who's ever heard those words before? But for a phenomenal woman, we wouldn't be standing here, let me tell you. This would not have happened without our friend and our rock, our foundation, Madam Crystal. Mass Housing intervened to really help us really work out that mind-numbing financing part that I talked about earlier. Just, you know, a little thing. But let me just say, it was because of the dedication, but let me start from the beginning. Principles, representation, those are the real words. We don't do this because we like to do it. This is our way of paying forward. And I'm going to talk about a woman whose shoulders we all stand on later, but this is why we do this work. It is personal, because I grew up, much like many of us in the city of Boston, in public housing, whose mom, you know, shifted. And so, phenomenal women. Crystal, your principles, your representation got this done. And we need you to come and talk to us tonight, today, this afternoon, and every day if you can, but you're too busy. So today is good. Thank you.
Like everybody else, I want to thank the residents. I worked for many years, about a mile and a half from here, and am very familiar with this community, but also very familiar with the portfolio of the former owner. And where's Peter? First project that I did, Peter, at Urban Edge was a project from the former owner. And so very familiar with the quality or lack thereof in certain areas. But also very understand how important it is to have that stock in the community. And I really appreciate you talking about my sort of principles and resolve. And folks were telling me this morning about the event today, and the staff were talking about, you know, how hard it was to close this deal. I was like, really? So there's a lot of things that happen in the agency that I don't have anything to do with. And a lot of the reason we're all here today is because of the folks who do all the work at Mass Housing. So those of you from Mass Housing, raise your hand, give a nice wave. There you go. And we all do that work at Mass Housing because of our principles. Because of our values. And when we do the work because we love the like complicated, fun stuff, financing stuff and all of that. But at the end of the day, we understand that it's about the people, right? We're not doing just pretty buildings or rehabs or, you know, complicated structures. We're building homes for people. We're keeping people's homes nice, because the one thing that we may have all known, but the whole globe knows now, is how fundamental home is in every aspect of your life. And to have accomplished this, not just because of all the complications, but in the middle of a global pandemic, it's just like, was amazing. And took on different levels of trust and engagement, mostly on the resident side, right? Because, you know, where are you gonna go? I remodeled my house during COVID, and I went away for 3 weeks. You can't do that, right? And so this was like a big deal, and you all should feel very proud. I'm hoping that you love your units, and we'll keep them nice and healthy, and we'll be back in, you know, a couple of decades or so, because every now and then you gotta spruce it up. We ain't mad about that. So congratulations, everyone, and look forward to doing the next project with Teronda and crew, and we'll see you there.
Ready? Yes, ma'am. I'd like to introduce now one of our resident leaders of this phenomenal portfolio, Mama Bruton. I can't call you by your first name, it's not allowed. All right? I think you know where I'm coming from on that. Activist, community anchor, leader, Mama Bruton. Will you come up and talk to us about your experience, please?
I gotta first take a deep breath. First of all, let me just thank all the public funders, the investors, the foundations, the nonprofit partners, and the project team, and all of those that did make these things possible. I also want to say that a lot of you all don't know me. So good afternoon to all of you. My name is Phaedra Bruton Page. I'm a mother biologically of 5 children, 2 stepchildren, 30 grands, 7 great-grandchildren. I've been a tenant of Lorenzo Pitts, JPNDC, for over 25 years. And living in my community over 50. I have watched people come and go. I have watched people lose their apartments, lose their children, lose their lives. I am so grateful for the new changes that have been done to the developments. I'm looking forward to more future changes and renovations. I'm praying for more unity to expand amongst our tenants and the staff, so that we as a whole can train our youth in our communities on how to make our community equal and better for all of us to live here. With the knowledge and the financial awareness, we will make a better future. Without us as adults standing, respecting each other, and directing our children, will not make a good future for us. Also, the First Lady that spoke, she said something that I've raised my kids with all their lives. When you know better, you do better. You can't do better if you don't know. So that comes with the education that comes in our community. To push us out of here does not make it better. It doesn't give us knowledge. It makes us feel that we just throw it away. We don't ever want anyone to feel that they're thrown away, because Boston is the place to be. I don't care what nobody says. Yeah. I want to say thank you to Lorenzo Pitts, JPNDC, for the support they have given me in my Stop the Violence program that I do in my community. I educate children, youth, and parents on personal hygiene, finances. We have game night. During the whole pandemic, we had game night. During the whole pandemic, children and I gave out boxes of food to over 50 families. That's what we do. It said, when I was raised, it said it takes a village to raise children. Well, I'm part of the village. And if I see somebody suffering, it's my job to try to figure out, not throw in their face what I've done, but to try to direct them on where to get the help that they need. And if I don't know, I'm gonna call my mayor's office, who's gonna give me that information. So at the end of the day, I'm so grateful to you all for you all helping me to make awareness to the people in my community that that you do care about them and all the killings that have happened in my community. I truly do believe united we stand, divided we fall. May God keep blessing each and every one of you, and may we live long enough to build a bigger and better community together. Thank you.
Know better, do better. All right, so how are we feeling? All right, good, because we have a lot of people to thank, a lot of people to embarrass, okay? So bear with us. You know, I was out in Great Barrington a couple weeks ago, home of Booker T. I'm sorry, scratch that, WB, I got WB and Booker T on my mind. But Joe, stay with me for a second. We have a lot of giants that we stand on. And every time I have the opportunity to reflect on that, it gives me the energy to move forward. And so, Booker T. Washington said that success is to be measured not so much by the person that one has reached in personhood or position that one has reached in life, but by the obstacles which we've overcome. And this team that I'm going to thank right now about the obstacles, and we've alluded to some of them. I just want to say, first of all, we're all a little grayer. Some of us have a lot less hair. Maybe we are, we're trying to do some mindfulness to recover from some of the work. But what I will say that I never, ever, ever anticipated that anyone would give up. And there were a lot of times where we weren't sure how we were going to overcome an obstacle. So I'm going to go out of sequence if that's okay. I want to start with a little phenomenal woman who snuck in, Miss Leslie Reed. She received the phone call and said, not whether, but how. Leslie Reed was the real estate director of JPNDC at the time, and she's, I call her my big sister now, but really she was my mentor. And there weren't many people in the city of Boston who could have figured this deal out. Actually, I only really believe that there were two. You and Crystal. That's it. And Peter Munkenbeck, who's always in the background pushing the phenomenal women to become more phenomenal. But really, those spreadsheets, how many versions? 100 maybe, just to get us started. So thank you, Leslie and Crystal, for kicking this thing off. I want to talk about the construction team. Where are you guys? Raise your hands. There you go. All right. Yeah, see, I said what about that hair and gray and all that stuff. Okay. I don't know if, do we have TAT here? There you go, Deirdre. Greg Rothland. Deirdre Horan. And my friend John Sullivan. The number of hours we spent in that hot room before this building was renovated, trying to figure out how to fit the square peg in a round hole. The measure of character, the arm wrestling over the change orders, the cost of materials escalating beyond anyone's imagination. You guys always sat together. There were very few choice words spoken. There was a lot of tension, but it was healthy tension. And I have to say, of those construction meetings that I attended, I could never have been more impressed by the creativity and the instant decision making that had to happen when we found some significant issues. It was impressive, and sometimes I would return to the office and feel like, all right, today's going to be the day. This construction meeting, this is the one that's going to break the camel's back, and it never did. So appreciate you for that. The on-site team. Where are you? Raise your hands, PPI. This is what representation looks like. And this is a team, any hour, any time, any problem, all the time, consistently. When we drop the ball, this is something that I often say to my staff, and it's one of those Leslieisms. We do a 5-minute search for the guilty, and then we get on to the work of falling in line to figure out how we're going to resolve the problem. Thank you. There were times where we couldn't get refrigerators into units, and individual families needed to get back to their unit from a relocation, and the supply chains were just interrupted. Thank you for getting it done. No whining. I have a sign in my house that says no whining. I'm a 10-year-old and 8-year-old. And they know if it's not broken, if it's not bleeding, we're not going to the hospital. Figure it out. That's my motto. Get a shovel, dig deeper, and figure it out. Thank you for figuring it out. Families were in place. There was no time for trying to figure out who was to blame. It didn't matter. That's the spirit and the attitude of this team, and we appreciate you for that. Development team. Whoa! Relocation of 201 households. All right, maybe it was 180. Something like that. What's the vacancy rate for rental in the city of Boston? Like, low. To find and work with so many landlords, to find opportunities for families to have units to go to while we got back in. Kira Rodriguez, phenomenal woman. If you do not know Kira Rodriguez and you have a occupied rehab project, I would never work with anyone less skilled ever again. This woman is phenomenal, 24/7, any issue, all the time. Thank you, Kira. Ricky. Yeah. Now, Ricky is our project manager that I was talking about earlier. I've never met a woman with stronger conviction and grace. I thought I was reasonably graceful, but Ricky takes the cake. We have a special gift for you, madam, because at 11 o'clock at night, I get a phone call, and she said, I'm not leaving. So you better get over here. And there was a resident who had a situation. And Ricky said, she deserves better than what she's getting. And I got over there. I didn't ask questions. When Ricky says she's not leaving, you know you got to get there. And that resident was safe, and we got it done. 1 o'clock, we got home. That's how it goes at the JPNDC. Ricky, thank you for making this happen day in and day out. Come on up. I'm going to introduce a local artist for Ricky. Where are you, sir? Come on, Cedric, get on over here. Madam Guerra. Has anyone ever seen this before? Yes. Here she is. Come on over here, both of you. I know we're running short on time, but I can't express enough the gratitude that we have to have a local artist who memorialized and symbolizes through his artwork on Phaedra Street, where we had our project manager in the middle of a pandemic still walking into buildings and trying to figure out how to get work done on Phaedra. This marriage, or this synergy between the two of you, between this imagery, your brilliance, and her amazing personality, we couldn't think of, Rebecca Mountainer really could not think of a better gift to represent the work that you did, heart and soul. So Ricky lived on Phaedra. And you're embarrassed, rightfully so. All right, Joe Lieber. Where's Joe? Is he here? Bethany and Taisha. So our legal team really, thank you. I don't even know what to, we don't do this without good legal representation, but we call Joe, Taisha, and Bethany kind of the glue that holds it all together. They're the ones up preparing all those mind-numbing words that go into all those documents that we have to actually read and analyze. We wouldn't be able to understand any of that without you. We appreciate it. All right, I think I've taken enough of our time. You know, it does take a village, and I will leave you with this thought. 240 years ago, a woman decided that she was overhearing some conversation in her former slave master's home. And she decided, hey, this thing about revolution and freedom, that should apply to me too. And so 240 years ago, August, just like today, she said, I'm going to do something about this. And she asked one of the local lawyers, what about that Constitution? What about that language of freedom? And why doesn't that apply to me? First person in Massachusetts, in Great Barrington, to stand up and do better for herself and to leverage her networks, and won her case for freedom. Hello, 240 years ago. We all can do better. We all are out here doing better. So to the residents, we understand that it is tough, but we will do better going forward. And we appreciate that 240 years ago, someone had the courage to stand up and say, we can fix this, we can do better. We don't have choices but to do better, and we're going to do that. Amen? Amen. All right, thank you. 1, 2, 3.